Howdy, folks! Happy Wednesday, happy Hump Day. Just a little a note in the chat here for our gang. We haven't seen Funky Cold Zadina the last few days, so wanted to see if anybody knew if he was okay.
And we hope he's okay.
Yeah, if they have a note, just let us know. Michael Cohen, we don't care if you're okay. You're just gonna be blocked. Just kidding. Okay, Russ, start us off with the.
Well, let's talk about the national pastime, baseball. Yeah, if you don't think it is, screw you. Anyhow, but here's something where the New York Mets always kind of feel like they're smarter than everybody else. And they've got a kid, Ronnie Mauricio, who is their number one prospect. And he's really looking good. He won a game yesterday. The Mets actually played 9 innings and actually played a game to its completion, Mike. And actually, there was a moment where the game was tied. And then there was a moment where a rookie could come up and actually win the game with a hit. Those are the kinds of things you can't actually mimic or try and simulate. But the basic point of this is not to rip on that again, although it's worthy, is so if the Mets are truly going to sign Francisco Lindor to a long-term deal and Ronnie Mauricio is going through like his first real spring training because last year was a mess, why in the world is he still playing shortstop? Because he's never going to play shortstop for the New York Mets. Right. Why isn't he playing second or third, the 2 weak spots on the field for them?
Well, second would make more sense because shortstops can easily transfer second, and they're just turning the double play a different way. But range-wise, it's similar, and also the throw is easier. But
to me, it's just like wasted time that he's still playing short.
And like I said to you, I think it's insurance. I think there's no guarantee that Lindor is signing there, so they want to keep him at his natural position, and then they can move him. Because shortstop's the most difficult defensive position. They can move them one way or the other.
Okay, so devil's advocate here. Let's say the season starts. Lindor hasn't signed his extension, but his agent says, don't worry, it's going to happen. We'll let it slip into the regular season. Do you then tell Mauricio, who is now off into, a couple weeks after spring training, they're actually going to start minor league baseball again, thankfully. Do you all of a sudden have Mauricio still playing shortstop until – the actual contract is signed, or are you going to start to move him to another position? Because I don't
think they're going to move him from shortstop until they know what's going to happen with Lindor. I think they're going to keep him at shortstop, which may be stupid, but I think like I said, if it's
at the end of the day, he could fall back and play short, right? We know he can.
Right, but I think they want for his development, they want to keep him at that position. They probably think they can move him to other positions without a problem.
All right. Well, so, I think it's short-sighted, but that's me.
All right,
Hi. Sorry, it's been a day.
We got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
Well, you know why it's been a day? We had this conversation last night. Why would you go to Geno's after a game knowing that late night it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks?
It was fantastic. I got 4 cheesesteaks with
Swiss cheese.
No,
Swiss cheese provolone, my God.
No, that's the John Kerry special.
Geno's cheesesteaks are pure cheese whiz. So that's what you do. Cheese whiz. It's amazingly awful, but it's unbelievably good.
When I was in the Philadelphia area, and we didn't go to Geno's, we went to some other place. I know what cheese whiz is. I've had cheese whiz as a kid. I don't want cheese whiz on a hoagie.
No, I don't want cheese whiz either. I'm going to answer Timothy Park. Who else cares about the Mets other than Russ? Probably nobody, but that was also a developmental thing. If you paid attention, Timothy, we actually talked about development. But now I'm going to give you straight Mets news.
I'm right here for you whenever you want it. You ready?
Mike, Carlos Carrasco has elbow soreness. I told you, this is a guy who's been hurt on and off for years, and that's why that deal is not a slam dunk. Now we can move on.
Okay.
Hold on. So,
but I would get I think I got provolone on that, and that's what most of the steak hoagies.
Anybody who has a palate gets provolone.
Yes.
It's Philly's cheesesteak is the way to go, man. Pat's is better. Mob Talk Radio says Pat's is better. I will do you a favor, Mob Talk Radio. I've always been a Geno's person. Like, it's one of those things that once you do one, you always have to do that one. You don't even try the other one. That's the way we are in Philadelphia. But I will absolutely, after the next Flyers game I go to, which might be tomorrow night, go to Pat's and check it out and see if there's anything better.
I like Tony Luke's the best, but I don't eat red meat. I get a chicken cheesesteak, but I like Tony Luke's the best. As an example, the Which is the place in Reading Terminal?
Is that Jim's?
Not Jim's. No, I think it's Pat's.
That's in Reading Terminal.
Yeah, I think it's Pat's. And while it's very good there, I don't trust the oil bottles that they have because it looks like they never clean them out.
That's pretty quite possible. I mean, all that.
Which only looks there's at least some cleanliness.
But that brings the flavor. The
part of it, like there was a guy who used to be my father-in-law who grew up in Rhode Island. Used to tell the story of this guy, the hot dog vendor in his town, who was like, was always this big sweaty guy outside, underneath the thing, like sweating, and his whole thing to put we take the roll and it would like somehow get the sweat on his arm and you'd eat it. And he said that was just part of the hot. That was part of the taste.
Yeah, in the COVID era, I'm gonna pass on that.
Yeah, me too. But
I'm with you on that one for sure.
But the Philly cheesesteaks in Buffalo, the chain here is called Jim's Stakeout, and they do the hoagie, and it's provolone all the time, and then they put some sort of special sauce on there, and it's not Thousand Island dressing, so don't start me with the Big Mac stuff. It's it's something that's not that disgusting. So anyway,
yeah.
All right, let's start.
All right, so we'll start the show. But yeah, that was something. That was it was funny.
I'm sure in Buffalo they're using Steakums anyhow. So
Russ and I were. I was threatening to do this when I left Russ last night after the game. I was like, I'm going to do it. I was just so hungry, and there used to be a cheesesteak place, Talk of the Town, which is right near the arena, and I would go there all the time. But it really was surprising how quickly I was at Gino's. Like it was like only like 6 minutes. It's really fast to get to Gino's from the arena.
Yeah, it is fast.
I never really ventured to that part of South Philly.
Well, I mean, again, right now we're in an era where there's not that much traffic. It could be worse than that. Under normal circumstances, it would have taken you longer because there would have been traffic all around the building, and there wasn't.
But when you venture into South Philly, you definitely are immediately taken to Rocky. Like there's no, you can't get out. You can't get the. It looks so much. If you want people like come to Philly, and they always go to the art museum just for the Rocky thing. They run up the art museum steps, whatever. If you want to feel like you're in the movie Rocky, drive into South Philly around Gino's. Then you'll feel like you're in. That's like where Anthony grew up.
You might see the Mafia there too.
Isn't that where Anthony grew up? I think right around there. Anthony.
Yeah, he's somewhere around there where his store was. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we go. What the hell date is it? March 10th. We'll say it's March 10th. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, March 10th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and there is no Mafia.
I'm Les Cohen, and if there were, they'd have a Jewish accountant.
Oh boy! And I'm not going to only say that because he's Jewish.
That's right.
And you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday. This time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we do have to start for a second. And we have a lot to talk about here, but we do have to start for a second with the event Russ and I witnessed last night.
Oh my God! An event. It was an event more than a game.
Can we start with something uplifting before we?
Yeah, but I just have to talk about this for a second.
Okay. It is worthy of discussion.
This is like this to me is like it. I have witnessed a lot of hockey games. So has Russ. We all watched a lot of hockey games. A lot live, a lot on TV. I've probably seen 1,000 live games. I've been going. My parents had season tickets since I was 6 years old. I've seen a lot of games. I cannot remember a worse game than last night's Flyers Buffalo Sabres game.
Me either.
Just to attend in general, just because there was so many aspects to it that were bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, first of all, Eichel's not in the lineup. That takes a lot of the steam out of it, right? For sure. But then the way the Sabres play is just infuriating, and they are so. And I hate to say it, they are literally Ralph Krueger. When I watched that Team Europe team play at the World Cup of Hockey, that Team Europe team was known because they were hardworking. They forecheck. They were crazy.
Right.
Balls to the wall hockey. I whatever the opposite of balls to the wall hockey is what the Sabres are doing right now. It's like they are playing so soft. I mean, it's not just a lack of checking. It's a lack of even stick checking. It's a lack when teams you say, oh, that team's only stick checking. That's better than not checking at all.
And I do want to call out even Taylor Hall in this game for two things. He's not shooting on the power play. He's just passing the puck. And two, in overtime, Taylor Hall literally did not go back into the defensive end. He hung out at center ice.
Wait a second. Because we talked about this after the game, Russ. The strategy of the Sabres was if they didn't have a clear path to the net, they kept cycling back.
No, but this is even before that. That's
even
true.
before that is the worst 3-on-3 overtime I've ever witnessed.
And what Mike's saying is true. That was a part of the overtime. Before that, before they employed that strategy, Mike, because they didn't do it the whole time, right. Taylor Hall literally watched his teammates skate in the other end to get the puck, and he hung out at center ice. He wasn't moving. Nobody does that in overtime in the NHL. Nobody.
I really wish that I had done an ISO video, because you don't see it on TV, an ISO video on that shift that Taylor Hall took, Russ, because if you thought that, the shift that Dubois took was lazy, that shift made Dubois' shift look downright, like hustling.
And that's why I'm bringing it up.
But the ironic thing here, Eck, is that you're saying how terribly the Sabres played, and they did. That was probably their best game in the last 10. They were up 4-2. Which
they were up because the Flyers didn't show up at all.
Well, I was going to say, which maybe was more of a statement. And again, Russ and I have to go back to this. There's something wrong with Carter Hart. I don't know if it's psychological. I don't know if it's confidence. But this is the thing that we were scared about when he was rushed to the NHL at age 20, which ended up, that was the decision that got Ron Hextall fired. Okay. Well, this is the reason. It wasn't going to show up right away. A couple years down the line, the reason that you keep players down in the American Hockey League is to build, and I don't remember what the term was that a level of confidence, to just develop sort of a comfort level.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't have that. Now, top end, he is one of the best goaltenders in the league. We saw that in the playoffs. We've seen that at times during his regular season. But there are times where he loses all concept of how to stop the puck. And he did it early in that game.
Yeah, and what my point in this thing was not just the busting the Sabres, but also busting the Flyers to go, because this game was not just bad because the Sabres were doing what they were doing. The Flyers also decided to do what the Sabres were doing. And what the Flyers basically did is they played like the Sabres were playing, which gave it the feel of like an open hockey game when everyone was so tired. Like an open hockey game in the third hour of an open hockey game. Like everybody's been on there, like the kind of open hockey game where guys stop at the bench and drink water while they're actually on the ice playing. Like it reached that level. Like there was a save that Elliott made that was a pretty good save, but it really felt nothing more than like an open hockey save to me. It was just like, okay. I was like, it was like, and the Flyers, the Flyers were, I felt as if, to me, the Flyers were going to win that game. Like there was the whole time, like I really wasn't like questioning if the Flyers weren't going to win that game, even when it was 4-1 or 3-0.
Of course, because look who they're playing.
Right, we know the script.
Just because the Flyers, they were playing at such a low level that if they picked it up at all, they were going to get plenty of chances, which they did, and they were going to score goals, which they did. They could have won. Winning in regulation wasn't that important to them. I don't think they won. And the Sabres wanted to go to a shootout. There's no two ways about that. The way the Sabres played the overtime, they were like, let's take this to a shootout. We have a better chance in a shootout, which they do. But then you get to the shootout, Russ, and who do we throw out for the first two shots of the shootout for the Buffalo Sabres?
Dahlin and Middlestat, which made no sense. And Mike and I listened to it together post-game, and Ralph Kruger's explanation of it was, Hall and Reinhart were the next two. And it's like any normal coach in the NHL, any normal one, doesn't care what he sees in practice like Ralph Kruger. He cares what he sees in the game. And usually if you had a hand in a 4-goal game, you're going to be out there on the shootout line if you're a good shootout guy. And the fact that the other two guys were the next plan just shows how messed up the Ralph Kruger plan is, because you can't look ahead like that. You've got to score the first one. You're on the road.
I know.
And Dahlin didn't look like he wanted to shoot it.
Well, when you miss the first one and the Flyers get the first one, then you got to be like, okay, well now,
then you got to put your best guy.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is a statement in favor of Kruger or on the opposite side, but it's not the first time that he's used Dahlin in the shootout, and this is probably Dahlin has looked good in the past in shootout opportunities.
Sure, but he didn't look good in this game.
He didn't look good at all on that one.
And he's no point in using him on the shootout, and it showed. The thing I want to say about Carter Hart is, look, for the last couple of weeks, I felt like he was lacking confidence. He copped to that last night post-game, and that's because he's an honest guy, and I give him credit for that. When I said, hey, you got to pull him after that third goal, it wasn't like, hey, you got to pull Carter Hart because he's a bum or because he's like he's going to turn into Carson Wentz like some Philly radio stations think here. No, it's just because he didn't have it that night. And I could see it, and I'd watched this kid for a very long time, and I knew he didn't have it, and that's the only reason. Now, this season, if Elliott plays more games, that's okay because players, especially goalies, have off seasons. We've talked about this. Not every goalie has the year of his career every year, and especially a young goalie. And what shakes his confidence? The fact that they haven't had a good top pairing all year helps shake your confidence, and the fact that the forwards don't play very good defense helps shake your confidence. It doesn't with Elliott because he's seen everything. You're talking about like a 12, 13-year veteran. He's seen everything. It's a different mental state.
Right. It's a very different mental state. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, then we'll move on from this game, is I wanted to talk about my first experience with fans in the arena. And it's really interesting. No, I mean, with fans since in a year, and this my first experience with fans dispersed the way they are in the arena, like in their own little sections, and it is a fascinating psychological thing to watch because, I mean, literally, you always have the thing that you I tweeted this out, but the thing that you miss the most about that you realize right away that you have real fans there again is the guy who screams during the lull and play, "Get your ass together, Flyers! What the F is happening?" The guy that just
that guy can actually be heard with 3,000.
They didn't have that recording on the fake crowd. They should have. They should have had that recording on the fake crowd. I want next time to go to a fake crowd, I want to have those recordings.
Yeah, we talked about that. We were missing that.
Or the mom who yells, "What's wrong with you, Carter Hart?" Like that. I heard that too. I mean, I heard some really great moments. And the thing that really struck me is we've all had the guy season tickets for a long time, and for about 3 or 4 of those years, there was a guy who sat behind us that was an idiot, right? And that's the worst.
No.
When you have a season ticket in a spot, and the guy behind you has a season ticket in a spot, and the guy behind is like the jerk off who just yells everything ridiculously stupid all the time. And I thought to myself, if you're going with your dad and your dad's that idiot guy, right, or whatever, and if I always felt bad, he had kids with him, and the only thing that saves those people is the fact that they think to themselves, well, my dad can't be such an idiot because there are at least people near us that he'll be intimidated by enough that he won't just be a jerk and say stupid things. That's gone. That doesn't exist right now because no one's sitting around the families. So you can see families together, and you can see the guys screaming at the top of their lungs because no one's right in front of them or no one's to the side of them. It was hilarious to watch. I mean, it was just that in and of itself was way more entertaining than the game for me, and I just couldn't stop watching that part of it. Those two aspects of this make for a really fascinating thing, and it is amazing how much I definitely encourage you guys, if you get a chance to be a fan in one of these games and go to one of these games and attend these 3,000 people games, because it does feel like you're actually seeing the Flyers in a smaller venue.
It does.
And it feels like what you say or what you boo or how you react actually matters, which it does because the players are listening. They really are, and they can
hear everything you say. It's kind of like you're at a concert. If you're at a place and you figure with the crowd, if you yell something, the guy will never hear you, and then all of a sudden the guy stops playing his music and says, "I heard you," and he answers you back. This is even easier than that.
It feels like that. So, when you get on the power play and people are yelling "shoot," that it was that guy who yelled "shoot" and that guy who yelled "shoot," and that's the interesting thing about it to me. It's like it really was worth watching. I thought that was just really entertaining. But Mike, what else do we have on the docket? Sorry.
Well, the big news that came out started to leak out last night, and is apparently there was a official press release, and I guess some sort of media thing at 4:15 today, is the deal between the NHL and ESPN. Now, okay, it's a 7-year deal. We still don't know the money breakdown, but Andrew Marchand of the New York Post broke down the specifics of the deal. And this is where I'll read the specifics first, and then I'll give you my opinion here. Okay. So ABC, ESPN will have 4 of the next 7 Stanley Cup finals. They will have 1 conference final each year, which indicates to me that there's going to be a split with either NBC or Fox. That's apparently not yet agreed upon. They are only going to broadcast 25 regular season games on either ESPN or ABC. This is mostly a deal for ESPN Plus and Hulu. 1,100 games on ESPN Plus. Apparently, it sounds like it's going to replace the NHL TV, not Game Center, but the NHL TV aspect.
Okay.
And ESPN Plus and Hulu will stream exclusively 75 national games. Now, I'm going to be curious to see, because remember, the NBC contract 10 years ago was $2 billion over 10 years. It ended up being $200 million a year for the 31 NHL teams, which is not a ton of money. This better be $3 or $4 billion at least for the NHL to have done a good job in terms of getting a good bang for the buck, because they're providing content to ESPN and to an avenue which they want to promote a lot. Now, everybody says, well, the best thing is that they're going to be on the ESPN highlight package. Yeah, on SportsCenter. Russ, I don't know about you. I don't watch SportsCenter anymore.
I've watched a few over the last couple of months if it runs from another show, and they show literally like a half a minute to a minute in total for the whole league. Like, it's not like you're going to see a lot.
Right. My saving grace to this is that you do know that ESPN and TSN are sisters, right? So they have there's a connection between those two stations. So my hope is that they pull in some TSN stuff.
It doesn't. Now, what they
I don't think they're going to do that.
What they may do, is they may co-opt some of their regional broadcasts for ESPN Plus, so there's no additional production costs. They say that they're going to produce independently some games, and maybe that means guys like Steve Levy and Buchagras and other broadcasters who have broadcast NHL games before will do so again. But it doesn't sound like there's going to be a crossover between like LeBron would be on ESPN. Right. He's exclusive to TSN and The Athletic. Right. I don't think that Drager or Frank or anybody else are going to be crossovers. Maybe they'll get the Gord Millers and Ray Ferraros involved, which would be great because they're great announcers and and color guys. But to me right now, until I hear the money amount, I don't know how big. It's great that they're on ESPN. $2 billion
apparently, it's a big deal. It's a big. How much? $2 billion. It's like a big.
I can see that. And here's my big
crazy when you think about it, because do you remember the lockout, like the original lockout where we lost all that money? It was $2
billion for 10 years.
But remember when we came back from the lockout and the whole NHL revenue was $2 billion? Like they talked about it, we're going to split between the NHL players will get this much, and they were splitting $2 billion up. That's what I remember. So
online content has really blossomed. Like, as an example, that really hot new show, the Two Masked Men podcast, that thing's blowing up right now. You were on it yesterday. You know about it.
I was, and we were punked by Anthony in the middle of it. But besides that, it was all right.
We taught him a lesson. But with the ESPN deal, this is the worry I would have for fans. So now, if I sign up for Game Center, am I losing out games? Because ESPN Plus is going to have some exclusive.
Right. That's the issue right now. Like, that's the issue right now with NBC.
You can say no, Mike, but we don't know.
Well, I get really furious when I'm on a Game Center thing and it says no, that game's blacked out
on NBCSN,
which is usually fine because that's just another app, right? Or if you have other ways of getting things like,
or if you get it on your cable package. But here's the other thing that Marchand reported with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and Hulu. They're going to add anywhere between $13 to $19 a month to their Disney package. So this is where they're getting the revenue from. And honestly, if it's two, and I'll take $2 billion personally. Thank you very much. If it's $2 billion over 7 years, they better be getting 3 or 4 from NBC or Fox because this is mostly streaming. What about content on, regular cable?
It wasn't the last deal that came from NBC. How much was that? How much was that?
It was $2 billion for 10 years. It was
This is 7 years, and this is half. This is really half their package for $2 billion for 7 years. That's impressive.
Right. Most of it's streaming. That's the whole point.
The worry here is there are definitely games that you get blocked out from Game Center that are on NHL Network, right? And that you have to pay extra for. So I'm thinking now there's going to be games that are the same way with ESPN Plus, so they get a little extra carrot. I just feel like it's going to be in there. I'll be very happy to learn if it's not.
Now I purchased ESPN Plus this year. I was part of the ESPN Insider thing, and they just converted it over to Plus.
Right.
And I paid $50 for the year. So if I have to do that on top of Game Center, and Game Center is $150, there's gonna be a lot of pissed off people out there.
And the NHL Network, you're paying an extra probably $10 a month.
$12
on cable for that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it is. I'm going to say this though. It is kind of fascinating because there might be other ways of getting content like this for free. Not for free, but for very little out there. And it's kind of amazing to me in this day and age that they're getting these kind of numbers with the ability to people to find these things other ways growing exponentially. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, this is the other thing. So if you have fans spending this much online, right, to watch the sport,
right,
it is eventually going to erode your gate attendance for the sport.
Yeah, no, that's true in some places. In some places,
the only league that
now, especially right now, I think that it changes right now because I think they're naturally writing in a bit of eroded gate, even when we get back, because I think they realize that they're not going to be able to get fans out right away that well.
Right.
The only league that doesn't apply to is the NFL. They can do right, but they're untouchable. But for the NHL, especially you would factor in the fact that I am sure ticket prices are probably going to go up next year because they want to make more revenue. That you could see attendance go down, and you could see attendance go down because people still don't want to make themselves vulnerable to getting infected.
Now, this question is where it gets complicated because if NBC's still in, Tappan's still in. If they go to Fox, they might go to Aaron Andrews, who used to do hockey. Like, this is where the contract with the network means more than who's covering the sport. Because a lot of times when contracts are changed, like Mike Tirico loves hockey, but he wasn't a hockey guy for his last contract, but then he became a hockey guy because he was there and he knows hockey and he does a good job. If all of a sudden NBC's out, Mike Tirico's not going back to ESPN just to do hockey because he's got like a 10-year deal with NBC. So this is where those things, you may lose some of those people that you like.
Well, just think if they go to Fox, Russ, they'll have Skip Bayless doing.
No, they'll have Aaron Andrews, I bet.
No, yeah. She's married.
She knows hockey.
She knows hockey. She's married to a hockey player.
Yep.
Right. So, I think there's a couple things though that are positive.
Skip Bayless, I'm out.
A couple positives about ESPN in general. Does my voice sound okay? Or is my microphone?
Yes, it's fine.
No, you sound fine. I mean, you sound like you. I mean,
do I normally sound better than this? Because I usually use a microphone. I'm using my sound from my.
I'm not the right person to ask.
You sound.
Anybody in the chat room, please tell me because I can hook up the other microphone real quick. Because a couple times
you sound fine.
I watched the show afterwards. I'm like, I can't understand a thing I'm saying because you guys didn't tell me I sounded terrible. But anyway, all right.
Yes, it's our fault now because of your voice. It's our fault.
Me right now. All right, so here we go.
Are you gonna believe me or your lying ears? Come on.
I believe you. All right, so here's the thing that we have to take in. Like, we can go. There's a negative spin on this, of course. Thanks, Mike, for finding it. But there's also a positive one.
I'm sorry. I think it's a valid criticism because honestly, if they're only getting $2 billion, here's the sunny opposite side. If they're getting $2 billion for a mostly streaming package, but the thing is, they're giving 4 Stanley Cup Finals and 7 conference finals for $2 billion, they better be getting at least double of that from either Fox or NBC for all their games on cable and regular TV. They have to. If they don't, then I think they're getting screwed.
I think the market has softened up in all sports, though, Mike. I think you're going with past.
I think if you can match that, you're okay. I mean, if you can match,
you're going with past projections. That's not how business is right now for any business, almost.
All right, so can I give the other? What I think are the positives? The positives are this. Okay, one, yes, you can sit there and say that they don't put the NHL much on SportsCenter, right? But it's not like there's an NBC equivalent to SportsCenter where they're doing it all the time. Okay,
they canceled it like a year ago.
Right, there used to be, but the reality is that even when that show existed, it had 1/1000th of the viewership of SportsCenter. Okay? So anything you're getting on SportsCenter is more is better, because that's like found press to me, because it just hasn't existed.
What if they mispronounce? What if they don't know the players? What if, because that's going to happen too.
So we're gonna get the bad analysis of hockey from Michael Wilbon and Tony
Kornheiser. Tony Kornheiser knows hockey. He's Canadian. He does.
No, he's not. He's not Canadian.
He is Canadian.
Tony Kornheiser?
No, he's from New York, but he always plays.
Yeah, please. I mean, what do you?
He's a Long Island guy, but he always
people with ESPN that are really good hockey people. Okay, that are still there, and that's what I want to bring up. I mean, obviously, Buchagras is a national treasure. He is, to me, like one of the best. We can get him on the show. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, John's a good guy.
I want to get him on the show. We'll talk about this whole thing.
So does this mean Bill Pito is going back to NHL tonight?
We talked about that last night.
Under contract with MSG. I don't know for how long.
I missed NHL Tonight. Let's all, like, anybody who's our age, NHL Tonight was epically world changing. Okay, like that.
They used it for video games. It was so popular. That's what they did for a while.
Being able to watch the highlights of every game at the end of the night was like mind-boggling for hockey fans at that time. And now it doesn't. It's now you can stream every game or whatever. You can watch condensed games. But back then, understand that we didn't have that.
But they're not getting Gary Thorne back yet.
Bill Pito were game changing for all of us. Like,
they're not getting Gary Thorne back. They're not.
Why? What's the deal? Why with Gary Thorne?
I just don't think he's in favor there anymore, and I don't think they want him. We all like Gary Thorne, but Gary Thorne's had trouble just getting any jobs lately. I mean, he doesn't get the same amount of jobs that he used to get.
Well, this is the thing you have to be concerned about in a way. I mean, Steve Levy is now the voice of Monday Night Football. So really on Monday nights, that means
Mike, there's another thing, okay? And I know we're talking about Steve. You mean it for another reason, but here's another positive. Advertising the hockey game that's coming on Tuesday night on Monday Night Football.
No, that's good.
That's great.
That kind of stuff is huge. Like those kind of cross promotion things, like, are just enormous. Like NBC, whenever NBC would mention, the Penguins and Flyers on Tuesday night during a football game.
If we see 1/10 of the amount of advertising that we see for the dumb NBA games that they float all the time, and I'm not saying dumb because I don't like the NBA, but it's like they're stupid commercials. They're the lowest common denominator type.
Well, I just hope the Forged and Fire commercial carries on.
So Joe says in the chat room, Joe says Bucci is a college hockey guy. Let me explain to you why Bucci's a college hockey guy. That's the only hockey ESPN had.
Correct.
Bucci is a hockey guy, flat out.
A hockey guy.
That's what he does, and he loves it, and he's hilarious, and he's funny, and he's the kind of person that we don't have enough of in this sport.
Here's the thing. More than likely, with only 25 regular season games, it's going to end up being somebody like Steve Levy, who's done NHL games a lot.
Yeah.
The thing is, like I said, for ESPN Plus, they're probably going to co-opt TSN broadcasts in Canada and regional broadcasts and just put it on ESPN Plus. But I also think that there's an opportunity. Gary Thorne is, somebody says, he's 72 years old. He got laid off by Masson. He was the Baltimore Orioles announcer. So it's possible that they bring him in.
I don't think they're going to go there, Mike.
I mean, even on a limited
feeling, I don't know anything. It's just
even on a limited basis, I think there's.
I mean, my favorite group ever was Gary Thorne and Bill Clement. All right, so that.
Sure, and they're not bringing in Bill Clement either. We know that.
No, they're not bringing in Al Michaels. No, this is not.
But to me, like that, they're the ones. I grew up. I mean,
all right, hold on. I'm going to do a timeout here.
Yeah.
Would they bring in Al Michaels? I think they might, Mike.
Al Michaels is NBC.
At the moment, but what if they worked out some sort of deal?
I can see Al Michaels in the Stanley Cup Finals. I could see that.
I could see that. I could see something.
Even if he's not doing play-by-play, he's part of the whole thing.
Hey, maybe
if they were able to cut a deal, they would be all in on Al Michaels. I'm sure of that.
Maybe they'd throw $10 million and get Doc to come back.
Nah.
He won't come back.
Doc is done. He did talk to him. He's done. He's going to come on the show too. But anyway, we have. I think that it's the more hockey gets spread out, the more hockey's involved with things, the better. NBC did, and hopefully will continue to do a good job with it because they've. I mean, my biggest concern, I think, is maybe the playoffs and how that'll be handled. Will all the playoff games still be televised? That I want to make sure they are. And
it sounds like the plan is because ABC is getting one conference final every year, that whoever the other one is, NBC or Fox, they would get the other one,
right.
and then they would alternate. And
what about the games leading up to that, though? That's what I want to know. Because right now NBC's done a really good job at having pretty much everything on.
Again, I think they're gonna co-opt other broadcasts. I mean,
I think this is, if they have 3 networks, right? If they eventually end up with 3 networks, we are going to see the play-in playoff game, because then they're going to give that to one of these networks.
Linda Cohen is another one who is phenomenal.
Linda Cohen's going to get used a lot.
I mean, I've talked to her many times. For some reason, Linda Cohen and I have this running joke that whenever I cover an NHL event, Linda Cohen and I are on the bus together every time. We seem to take the same times to go and leave arenas. And she's a big Hockey Buzz fan. She's a sweetheart of a person. Really,
she's great.
Really amazing. So
she was a goalie. She played goalie.
I know. I talked about that too. Really knowledgeable. So I think that this whole thing is a positive. It does remind me a little bit of Sportsnet and TSN in Canada. You have 2 different things covering hockey. In Canada, I think that works really well. It's more now. The other thing is this: it's a 7-year deal. Where we are right now with streaming, and where we're going to be 7 years from now with streaming.
Well, the one thing
is going to be vastly different. And because look where we were 7 years ago. I mean, people are out here ripping on Hulu and Disney Plus. Someone said they were the bottom of the barrel for streaming. No, that's absolutely wrong.
And you also notice that this deal is a year longer than the CBA, so they didn't want everything to go at the same point. Remember, there was 2 years left in the CBA. They expanded it by 4 years. This deal's 7 years, so this doesn't expire until the year after the CBA expires.
I know where we're going with streaming. What's going to happen in 7 years, Zach, after we get the coronavirus vaccines, we will then have the ability to point our arms at the wall and project our TV screen. Nobody's talking about that technology that's in the shot right now, but it's going to come out in 7 years.
No, I've actually heard that. I know you're joking, Russ, but there are wrist things now you can do that with already. They're projectors on your wrist, so basically you could point your arm at the wall. Okay. Hulu. Oh, Jesus, Hulu Plus.
My arm would get tired. I'm gonna have to put it on something.
All right, let me defend Disney Plus for 1 second. Okay, let me defend Disney Plus for 1 second. First of all, some of the best kids shows of all time. Phineas and Ferb, unbelievably underrated show. But right now, what I'm watching on Disney Plus for the first time, believe it or not, these things aren't even available on DVD. The entire Muppet Show series was just released on Disney Plus, and I know that's going to be. A lot of people are going to laugh about that, but of course, in my house,
I liked some of the Muppet Show stuff. It was good.
And it's funny because now, and in front of some of the Muppet shows, they put a thing, understand the content of this content was wrong at the time, and some of it's still wrong now. Because there was some stuff the Muppets did a lot of puns that were not racially, but they were on the edge of things, and they just made fun of everybody. But anyway, the Muppet
world was pedestrian. Will you stop? Anthony, come on, that's a pedestrian series.
Yeah, I know. Not as good as Jimmy Eats World, which is a really good band.
I don't remember if I've seen that or not. I can't remember.
You ever heard Jimmy Eats World?
I have, but I don't remember if I saw that or not.
The band? No, it's a band. That's a band.
That's a band. No, that I don't know them. I remember the name from something. That's okay.
I Anderson and I both share the love of that band. We've talked about it before. Hulu does a great job too. I'm telling you that their Hulu. I mean, I have a live TV. I have a Hulu contract that gets me live TV. That's how I get my live TV is Hulu. So yeah, I think that I don't know. I'm not really worried about this stuff. And Kansas, Cameron likes my shirt in the chat room. I appreciate the compliment. I get all the clothes I ever own except for my hats. Maybe
I'm just pointing out that this is not cause to have a parade. It's I think it's good news, but I think it's not oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. It's good
news. It's good news.
The best news about this to me, Mike, was the fact that it's partial. Okay,
right.
When I first sent you guys the text that I read this, or I saw it being mentioned around, and some people were texting me ESPN. I didn't know that it was partial.
Yeah, we knew the NHL was going down this road. It made too much sense because MLB with TBS and with Fox, the NFL with every network, and the NBA with TNT and ABC, ESPN. You make more money if you spread your, and there, you've got 82 games with 32 teams, so that's over 2,400 regular season games. You have to spread your content out, and that's a smart thing to do.
And Eck, I just got a text. The guys down at the Cabana love your shirt. They just wanted to say that.
Thrift shop, man. Thrift shop, 2nd Avenue. Find one near you.
A little breaking news here was reported out of Arizona that Darcy Kemper is out. It says week to week, which is all.
Yesterday it was up to 4 weeks. So which one am I believing?
At my blog, you would know that I broke this news because this is what I said. I said that Darcy Kemper's injury is not as serious as it was initially being broadcast, and the Coyotes are letting that be known, which is kind of interesting. And I think that because what's happening here, yes, we had Kevin Allen who says they're not going to trade him because they're in the battle. They're in the middle of the playoff race. The reality is, by April 12th, without Darcy Kemper in both these games, are they going to be in the race? I mean, I don't see them. I think you have 4 teams that are definitely the 4 best teams in the West. Who are they going to knock out? Colorado? I mean, I don't think.
I don't know, Eck. I'm not trading for Kempner now unless you give me his medicals and I look him over with an independent doctor in advance because this is too close to the trading deadline for me if I'm a team to say, oh, yeah, now Kemper will be good. That's great. Now we could trade for him. I would wait and see. I'm not jumping at that.
Yeah.
I mean, the goaltending market is so thin right now that teams might roll the dice, Russ.
Yeah.
Not for that much money. It's still going to be $1.5 million probably at the deadline. That's a lot of money.
But Arizona was more concerned with getting him some starts before the trade deadline to show him off than they are with getting into the playoffs.
But if you're Colorado and Philip Grubauer has tweaked a groin and you're going into the playoffs or going down to the stretch with Hunter Miska as your number 1 goaltender, then you're
okay. Let me ask this just as a basic question. I'm going to humor me for a minute.
Okay.
Let's say for some reason, while Darcy Kempner is getting in these 1 or 2 starts before the trading deadline, so does Ben Bishop. He looks good. Are you trading for Ben Bishop?
Well, Kemper has 1 year.
Forget about salary. I'm just asking.
No, you can't forget about salary because that's a consideration.
No, Mike, shut up. You can.
No, you can't. Ben Bishop has got, I believe, 2 years left in his contract.
Oh, really high.
Whatever. Pretend he doesn't. Can you pretend for 2 minutes?
If salary didn't matter, which of course it matters a lot.
Is the Stanley Cup being competed in fantasy land? No.
In Toronto it is, but that's not what we're talking about.
What's the difference between Fantasyland and Cheektowaga, Mike? Come on.
Cheektowaga is nice.
No, but I'm just saying, if salary's not a thing, and all of a sudden these guys are getting trotted out for a couple of starts before the trading deadline, I'm still worried about it if I'm a GM and probably not jumping in with both feet.
Darcy Kemper has got 1 year left at $4.5 million after this year. Ben Bishop has got 2 more years at $4.91 million.
No, I get it.
So that's not the strategy as I thought, actually. But still, the big thing here is I think Kemper is not injury prone, where Bishop is injury prone. To me, that's how I look at it. Like Bishop,
it's going to happen. That's the problem.
So many times that I would really be afraid to take him on.
Yeah, Ronson is injury prone.
What was that?
Ronson is for sure.
Yeah, Ronson's injury prone, but Kemper I'm okay with. He usually doesn't get hurt, and he usually can play a lot of games. And to me, I think this he is going to be. I still said even if he was hurt still and doesn't play before the trade deadline, he will have some people that offer something for him, which is interesting because of the fact that he's another year. Because you still have another year, and if you want to get him for whenever you make a trade. One GM told me a long time ago, you're making a trade for how many playoff runs you get out of the guy.
That's true.
You got 2 playoff runs out of Kemper here, possibly. Panarin joined the team in Boston. That news is breaking.
Okay, but here's the thing. All right, Ek. So I'm looking at Kemper, and we're looking at this year, right? If we just look at this year, he had a lower body. Then all of a sudden he had a setback. And so, if this is a knee injury, I am not touching him with a 10-foot pole. And it could be. It's either knee or groin, and I'm not touching him.
Yeah. Can we dig into that? Somebody's looking
at an injury in February.
Can we dig into the Panarin stuff for a second? Because the rumor he's joining the team in Boston.
He's on the ice. He, according to Dan Rosen and a few other sources.
That is fantastic news. I mean, I just like that is to me. I mean, not just for the Bruins and
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't have to worry about things now, and that's good.
I mean, I'm sure that if he's joining the team, he has some sort of sense of that things are getting done the right way or whatever. I have heard stuff, but I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to. I think there's stuff going on behind the scenes here that I don't want to endanger anybody. So, but I've heard some stuff that he's getting some help from some pretty high places, Panarin. So, but if he's actually on the ice with the team in Boston, that is freaking amazing. And I think the whole world, even if you're not a Rangers fan, has to be happy about that.
Yeah, well, it's just obviously the questions are going to be, and who knows if he's going to answer them about, his family in Russia and everything. Yeah. Maybe he won't answer those questions because things are still in flux, and maybe he doesn't want to engender any kind of response from the powers that be in his mother country. So it'll be interesting to hear what he says.
I mean, Holtby is the other guy. I'm sorry, someone took it up. Holtby's the other guy on the trade market.
Well, good luck on that one because Holtby has played terribly, even though Vancouver's defense is not good.
But still, if you get a half decent defense, if you put Holtby with the right team. Holtby. I hope he's a gamer. Like to me, I'll take a gamer goalie. Like
Holtby was playing. I know badly with the Capitals.
Yeah, I know. The problem with Holtby is if you're bringing him in and he knows he's the number one, he probably could still do the job. If you're bringing him in and he is there just for insurance, and I have to use him, and then all of a sudden hope that he is going to have his stuff when he comes in, he's not. He's not that guy.
And Vancouver is going to need a goaltender back, not just because they just have Demko, because they need to expose a goaltender for expansion.
Right.
So them trading Holtby, it's like then they're going to have to get whoever from whatever team is they're trading Holtby to.
Right.
It's got to be somebody who's under contract.
Randy says he hears Rittich is on the market. No offense, nobody wants.
He's a UFA,
and nobody wants.
He is on the market. He is very, very much on the market. And there are teams that want him.
Oh yeah, no. I will when he moves to a team of consequence and he's not a taxi squad guy. Yeah. Then I'll eat my words.
I'll tell you who is not Rittich, but the other name that's like Rittich, the guy on the Ducks. What's his name? Gosh, I lose my mind.
Gibson? They're not trading Gibson.
Not a goalie. His name's like Rittich. Why can't I think? I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's Ricard Raquel.
Ricard Raquel is very much going to be.
He's going to be one of the best guys on the market.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best guys on the market. He's going to be one of those guys people are looking at right now, and that's and then I'm putting out my trade. I'm putting out my rumor chart in the next day or so, and he's big on there.
And the reason why he'll get something, first of all, he's not a rental. He's got a year left, and he's making less than $4 million. So
and he scores goals.
But that's the thing that I'm skeptical about. Anaheim, their one problem is they can't score goals, so they're going to try. That makes a lot of sense.
This is just finances, Mike. They don't want to re-sign him.
Yeah, I mean there are like LeBron. Zach said, "Here's the Ducks." LeBron saying the Ducks are going to blow up. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a messy thing.
The only way they're blowing up is if they get Murray, and they haven't gotten rid of Murray yet.
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that also, I mean, the big thing will be Getzlaf, I've been told, because even though
he'll never waive his no move.
That is an almost not an. I'm going to say this much about what I know about this. There are teams out there that are asking for permission to talk to him about it, like to basically say, like, okay, I want to say, like, we want to make a case for it. Come on,
persuade him. Sure.
Yeah, and there are some teams now. I'm not saying the Flyers are one of those teams, but we do know his wife is from the area. His wife's from Cherry Hill, so the idea of if his wife wants her family's here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is
there's nothing more attractive than moving with your in-laws.
Well, if you got kids and your in-laws are great and want to help you out, that's not a bad thing. Like it's not a bad thing to have somebody watch the kids all the time. That I think.
How much money does Ryan Getzlaf make?
$8.25.
Of course, he makes a lot of money. Yes.
So how are the Flyers doing this?
I don't know. Listen, I'm not saying the Flyers. Like I didn't say the Flyers ran on it. I'm just saying that these are the kind of situations that. If Getzlaf is going to move, you're going to have to convince them. So if you're the Flyers, that's what you do. You go and say, okay, we'll set up, your family share. What can we do? There's things his wife's a huge Flyers fan, apparently. It would be interesting to see. Like that to me I'm not saying how you would do it financially, but it seems like if you could figure out the financial part of it, like you said, Russ, in La La Land or Cheektowaga,
right.
If you could figure out the financial part of it, then maybe that's a place Getzlaf looks at the Flyers and says, okay, all right, I'll give that a shot. But so I wouldn't write him out of it.
Okay.
I wouldn't write him out of it. Does he want to play?
I don't think this will be the year the Flyers trade Giroux, Randy. I don't think this is the year.
No, that's not going to happen. I think Giroux
could happen in the future.
The interesting thing,
but I feel as if Giroux is. I did think that was possible a little while ago, but I feel as if Giroux sort of like wrangled his game together and the team behind him again a little bit.
No, he has for this year, but it still doesn't mean down the road it won't happen.
The interesting thing was that reported yesterday was of interest in Eric Staal from the Oilers, but a number of teams interested in Eric Staal, and that's again, he's making $3.25 million. I think a lot of people don't think he's done. They think it's the situation of him being in it. He never wanted to come to Buffalo in the first place. He didn't want to be traded from Minnesota. And depending on what the Sabres would ask for in a trade, they may think that would be a good veteran depth add. And
man, you got somebody to take him. But Russ, can you name to me one thing that Eric Staal did last night in that game?
Well, he did get an assist on the Sheehan goal, but other than that, no.
I mean, he was as invisible as any player.
Right. And what I'm saying is that the situation in Buffalo, I mean, I don't know whether you can evaluate any player accurately with that team, the way they're playing right now, the way they're being coached right now. It is an unmitigated disaster. And I think that, remember, Staal, and I talked to Russ about this. I mean, he didn't play well in New York. Apparently, he wanted to go to New York, but he got hurt when he went to the Rangers after being traded by Carolina. Then he went to Minnesota, and he scored 42 goals.
Not in the playoffs, though. You want to hear his playoff numbers? They're not good. With the Rangers, no points in 5 games. With Minnesota, 1-5. With Minnesota, 2-5. And then last year, he had 5-5. Like, those aren't great playoff numbers since his Carolina days.
Well, 5-5 is not bad. 5-5 is not bad at all.
Yeah, 1 year. You looked at the 1 year out of the 5.
It was last year.
Oh, again, is he still looking like that player now? No.
Yeah, but you're talking about giving up. Okay, you're talking about a team giving up a 3rd-round pick for a veteran guy.
Right.
I think it's worth the risk.
You didn't want to give up a 2nd round for Thomas Plekanec, who was younger than Eric Staal,
sucks.
and now you want to give up a 3rd for Eric Staal.
All right, let's not go back. No,
we are going back because I would fire you as the GM.
Thomas Plekanec sucked. It was over the hill, and 2, the Leafs were not a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. So why do you make that trade? That's probably the worst trade that Lou Lamoriello ever made in his friggin' life.
It's not the worst of his life.
No, the worst one was Brian Boyle for a 2nd-round pick. That was great too. Volkov look right now on the Lightning. He looks like a pretty good young player. That's
moving on.
Jesus.
The Ottawa Senators last night played their 28th game, which means one team has officially reached the halfway point of the season. All right.
Yes.
So Ottawa's officially actually Vancouver's at 29. I'm sorry. So we have the 2 teams now at the halfway point of the season. It feels as if we are 3/4 of the way through the season to me. I don't know why.
It does feel
in your head. You feel like you're 3/4. You're really halfway. It feels like, because we keep thinking, there's such a short. We still have just as many games left to play as we played. More games actually, because there's still teams at 21. I mean, so it's like the crazy thing about this is there's a lot of hockey left. So we sit there and say, okay,
how about this? You've got, we're basically at the halfway mark, and teams in the Canadian division play each other 9 or 10 times, but you would think that by the halfway mark, the games would be spread out fairly evenly. The Leafs play the Jets 8 more times in the next 22 games.
Wow.
They're going to like each other after that, I think.
That's an issue for Winnipeg in some way. Like when you look at who's going to make the playoffs, I'm sure that's, another thing I'm doing next weekend, by the way, that's going to start next week is my, projected standings. And this year is really fascinating because I've added a couple things to my projected standings this year. I always have like the 16 factors. This year I've added how when you play a certain amount of games within a certain period of time, that team gets weaker. So if you're Montreal playing your 3rd game in 4 nights against Vancouver playing their 1st game in 4 nights, that helps them. So that kind of thing. So that and also, if when you lose to a team and then you play the team the next night, you have a little bit, your chances go up a little bit, because that's what we've seen. We've seen that.
All right, I have something for you to stick into your predictor, right. And that is the Penguins have 8 games left against the Sabres, and they have 8 games left against the Devils.
The Penguins have not played the Sabres once, because that's the only. I have to look at that. I have to look that up. I really do.
Look it up.
You're lying, but I'm just saying.
No, somebody told me it.
I think it's. I think that's awful. I think they play them a lot, but I don't know whether it's 8. While you guys are talking.
But let's say they have 7 against both those teams. That's an incredible edge over a team like the Flyers, who's played the Sabres a lot after this series, especially. Right. Like, that's something you have to worry about now if you're a team. And so right now, the Flyers have the better winning percentage because they have, a game in hand, 2 games in hand on Pittsburgh. But ultimately, it could be a problem down the line.
Yep, Pittsburgh plays them. They have not played Pittsburgh once so far, and they play them 8 times. Who was the other team?
The Devils, same thing.
Well,
don't ever doubt me again.
No, you're wrong on the Devils.
Like I said, I was told that.
The Sabres have played the Devils 5 times already. So
the Sabres or the Penguins? The Penguins.
No, not the Sabres, the
Penguins. Penguins have played.
Okay, I'll check that.
I think the Penguins have the Devils. That is an enormous advantage.
2 mea culpas in one show will be too much for
16 games and 16 of their final 29 games, right? Because they have 31 games left. Is that the case? It's 16 of them are against New Jersey,
and those 31 are against those teams.
10. They have 10 games. Or wait, they can't have 10 games. Oh, no. Rescheduled. Sorry. 3, 5, 8. Yep. Wow.
16 of 30 games.
Pittsburgh's making the playoffs.
31 games. I don't know. But here's the thing about you have to remember about that. New Jersey New Jersey actually. They probably. I'm not saying they won't, but New Jersey is has historically played the Penguins as hard as
only 1 or 2, but we're talking. They're not winning like the bulk of them.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? We talked about this last night, Russ, and we were sitting there screaming at each other from 10 feet apart or whatever, through our masks. It's like really just trying to have a conversation, masks 10 feet apart
it's like the old MTV thing, the Loud Family. That's what we
like, because there's nobody in the arena, they're hearing Russ and I's conversations on the ice, So no, but here's the thing, like we remember Arizona, St. Louis, the 7-game series. It's like it is hard to beat a team multiple times. Just beat them outright. Like there will
not the Sabres, it's not.
Well,
if you want to give the Devils, I'll tell you what, I'll give the Devils 2 wins out of those games with Pittsburgh, and I'll give the Sabres 0.
All right, so let's look at it right now. Of those 16 games, how many of the games are the Penguins going to win?
12.
12? Okay, so you think they're going to split with the Devils, 4-4, and you think they're going
to Buffalo in 1?
Okay,
I'm going to give them 13 of those 16.
I'll say 10.
Okay.
But still, I think it's
still a lot of points.
A lot of points. I'm not saying. I mean, that is a huge number. Consider the Flyers have played the Sabres a bunch of times. They haven't played New Jersey. They played New Jersey, but not.
They played New Jersey 2 or 3 times, I think.
2 or 3 times, but they still have. It feels like the Flyers, the Boston, they played the most, right? They have
Boston's they played the most.
So that's a good thing for the Flyers' chances. Not having to play Boston that many more times. It's that is by next weekend we're going to have some really interesting things when I put that out, because that's going to matter big time, more than ever before, as to how that I bet you the projected standings will have the Penguins in it. I bet you it will. I bet it'll probably have the Penguins in it and probably the Flyers out of it. But we'll see.
I mean, it's just a possibility, but it just shows how this is such a weird year. We have to really dig into those kinds of things to help predict what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about one, in this example, you're talking about 1/2 of the schedule being those 2 teams, and the one that we mentioned before about Winnipeg and Toronto, you're talking about 1/3 of the schedule against Winnipeg. A team with a Vezina Trophy winning goalie and one of the best
dual Vezina. He's going to be dual, but anyhow,
probably he's playing great. He played great last night. Made 32 consecutive saves. He was really impressive. I like Hellebuck. I think.
I know you do.
The Islanders play the Caps Randy's saying.
If the Islanders could play the Bruins every game, they would win every game. At least that's what it seems like right now.
It does seem like that, actually.
Well, it is, to me, that is, the NHL is such a matchup league. That's why I'm such a big thing about matchups in the playoffs. We talk about it all the time. Like every year, if I sit there and we predict the playoffs and I have the matchups, just who should win based on who beats each other more often, predict the playoffs, we get destroyed by that. The matchup thing just comes through time and time again.
Well, here's the other thing too, Ek. For all the demise that everybody said about the Penguins, they have 11 wins at home.
Yeah.
11. The Islanders are the only other team in that division with 11, and I think the Vegas Knights are the only other team in the league with 11.
They have 10.
No, it's so hard to say right now. I mean, with fans back, it matters a little bit more, but I think before that, I don't think it mattered at all.
11-2-0, Mike.
I mean, you guys, like the Blues have only won 3 games at home, but if they have only 3 losses on the road, I mean, there's weird things out there.
Vegas has 10. Yeah, that's the one with 10.
I think the Blues have 10 road wins.
Even Pittsburgh,
right? So I mean, that's
no, that's true. But I'm just saying the Penguins, for all the nitpicking, they have 11 wins at home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's enormous. I mean, I'm looking at the Devils and Penguins for a second. And what we've seen in the past. Like who really liked over the last 2 years, and just regular season games. I got this thing. Okay, so let me do this. So right now, what's happened in those in the last 2 years?
Well,
the last 3 years. Last year, the Penguins won 2. They went 2-1 against the Devils. I got to do the last 3 years really quick. Yeah, okay, including this year. So if you have that, okay, so here you go. Over the last 2 years since 2018, the Penguins have won 3 games in the 7 meetings, and the Devils have won 4. I knew that the Penguins had like a number on the Devils a little bit. Now, the Sabres. Let's look at that for a second. That'll change things a little bit. Let's see about that. So they will play.
While you're looking that up, I'll just.
The Penguins have won 2, and the Sabres have won 4. So the Sabres have owned the Penguins. I mean, this Sabres team is, but those Sabres teams weren't good either, and some of those Penguins teams were maybe better than this Penguins team. So,
if you're talking about a team that's going to possibly be without Eichel because of injury,
yeah, that's another factor. Yeah,
sure. and they're going to be trading off their rentals like Staal and Hall and Montour.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a team. It's the Rochester Amherst they're playing, not the Buffalo Sabres.
Right. I'll give you that.
Now, a couple of things before we end the show. It sounds like Chris Johnston reported that the Leafs and a couple other contenders that are right up against the cap, they're very, like Winnipeg, for example, needs to add a left defenseman. They're probably on the market, and Chris didn't say this, but I'm just surmising here. They're probably in on guys like Ekholm, because they really need to improve their defense. But they're right up against the cap, but they're not opposed, as is Toronto, to trading players off their roster to clear the cap space. So it's not going to be, LTIR unless somebody gets hurt. It's going to be money in, money out. So they're, again, with Winnipeg, I'm not sure who would be the money out. I don't see them, Russ. I don't see them trading Nikolai Ehlers or somebody like that.
I don't think they're going to move Ehlers. I agree with you on that.
Maybe a Matthew Perreault, maybe maybe
Perreault, because he was on life support before the season started. We kept hearing whispers.
And with the Leafs, it's probably going to be a Kerfoot or somebody of that nature, because they can get a return for him because he's a center, and then use the cap space to bring in somebody else. So
right, true. Have we? When does Staal play his first game? Yeah, we found that. Yeah.
So that
still hasn't cleared quarantine.
I was wondering if we knew any idea on Staal.
No, I don't have the date.
No.
He might get lucky. If they all of a sudden go down to 7 days and he has like the 4 or 5 negative tests, he might only have to do 7.
He drove from Minnesota to Edmonton last week, so it's another week
at least. Yeah,
right.
Unless the rule changes,
and then you have to worry about the fact that he's been off the ice for 2 weeks. And remember, Pierre Dubois got hurt because he was inactive. So.
Right.
Yeah, why does he have to? I mean, they have to get him in there with no one else in the arena.
No, he can't. He basically can't leave his apartment.
It's Canada rules.
Yeah, it's asinine. I'm sorry, Canadian fans. I think, like right now, it's like I think that, if they are testing people with rapid tests or the other tests, and they test them 4 times in 7 days, that should be enough.
Yeah.
So, but hey, that's what we have to operate under right now. Or that's what the Canadian teams have to operate under.
Definitely, I want to show you guys before we get out of here. You have anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Okay. Shoot. Well, I'll see. All right, I want you guys to try to guess something. So somebody sent me something kind of cool. This is a little X-Addict edition here for a second.
Okay.
Where is I've lost the whole thing. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to get you back on. There you are. Okay, so can you name the goalie that wore this mask?
Yeah, Gilles Meloche.
Is it Gilles Meloche? I don't think it is.
No? That's my guess.
Nope. But this is a really cool mask.
Is it a Panther? Is it a Florida Panther?
No, this is old. This is like an old school mask. So
Gary Innes.
Nope. Anybody in the chat room? I'll get the name up in a second. I was looking for it right now, and he sent me the name, but it's
definitely not Bunny LaRock. It's not Wayne Stevenson.
It could be. The Rangers had a goalie that had a similar mask to that for 2 years. Who was the goalie, Mike, that wanted to play naked? Forgetting his name. He threatened to go out on the ice naked.
I think he's right. It's Gilles Gratton. I think this is that.
Gilles Gratton. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Is that he wanted to play naked?
Yeah, he wanted to play naked.
I think this is cool. I mean,
tackled him.
That would be a pretty short story, but
I want to say it was either Laidlaw or someone like Duguay that tackled him in the locker room and would have let him go out on the ice naked because he was that crazy.
Yeah, I said Van Beesbrook, but no.
He was Gratton was my second choice.
This is a 70s style mask or 80s.
Oh yeah, 70s. It's got like the big neck thing. Honestly,
yeah, that's the same mask that Mike Liut wore.
Yeah, he was on the Rangers 76, 77, and that was the second thought. So I wasn't too far off.
And this would be a Van Beesbrook. Van Beesbrook had a really cool mask, but he didn't have it was newer, but he did have a cool Panther.
It was close to that.
It was similar to this. I have a mask like this that
I went Gilles Meloche and a Gilles Gratton, right? So I was right there.
I'm gonna do the
So who was it?
Gilles Gratton.
No, that mask.
Yeah, Gilles Gratton. So there's a guy in over in Europe who just started a business. I'm gonna get his information, where he is reproducing vintage masks from the past.
That's cool.
He did that one for me a long time ago, the Wayne Stevenson one back there. I have a Lindbergh one which doesn't have anything on it at all, but it's still it's the same exact style and shape. He has some really good ones. There's a Gary Cheevers one that's really cool. I was going to get that one. And I like that one a lot. I also like he has the Ken Dryden one with the big circles on it, that had like the red and blue circles on it. I like these. I like these a lot.
Yeah,
so
Gratton used to hang out after practices naked.
Did he really?
Yes.
Wow. I thought only.
I think it's in my 100 Ranger Greats book. I remember the story.
Wow. I usually hang out after our podcast naked, but that's another story altogether. Folks, remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.